You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is Thursday. It is time to break out a little bit of the old bi-weekly options extravaganza known around the globe as the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which so many of you folks are binging out there these days. Hope you're having a good start to your trading, or not even good start anymore, good end, good second half, shall we say, of your trading week. My name is Mark Longo, of course, from theoptionsinsider.com. If I sound a little bit distracted, I'm working behind the scenes here to get the uncleest of Mikes to sort out some of his legion of technology issues, getting him on the show. Remember, you like what you hear this show, anything else that we do out there, only one place to go. Head on over to the full network, of course, to get everything that we're doing out here. If you like what you hear there, like a star, a comment, all that fun stuff. Let's help new people discover the content out there. If you want more goodness in your lives, only one place to go. theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. As we go around the horn, see who's joining us on the show today. First, let's go out to the hallowed halls of Cboe East, where we are joined once again by the Flowmaster himself, Mr. I'm all over the place. Tosaw killing me here. All right, Mr. Henry Schwartz from Cboe. Mr. Flowmaster, welcome back to the show, sir. Glad you're not having any crazy tech issues today, sir.
Sounds like Mark needs a vacation. I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here. I'm actually upstate New York again because they're still working on my air conditioner in my apartment. And New York has been a heat box for weeks now. But the market's has also heated up. So I guess it's a busy July, that's for sure. Lots going on, obviously. Last week, I think we were talking, I think last Thursday was when Russell was up 3% and the rest of the market was down. So, that theme of mega rotation continues, and I'm excited to get into it today.
Mega rotation indeed. And also joining us from the southern volatility mecca known as Austin, where they dodged a hurricane by the skin of their teeth. He is the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian from optionpit.com. Mr. Meatball, welcome back to the show to you as well, sir.
Hey, good to be here. Happy Thursday. Plenty to talk about, so should be a fun one today.
Should be a fun one today, so let's get to it. A little bit of the old trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where, surprise, surprise, we talk about what the heck is trading out there. And we also talk about what the heck is going on with Uncle Mike Tosaw and his internet out there. This guy just... What is happening? All right, well, we'll figure it out here, listeners. Let's figure out what's going on here on the show as well, because, yeah, a lot is going on here, listeners. Let's start with a wee bit of red on the screen out here today, listeners. We haven't seen this color for a while, and then all of a sudden, we saw it quite a bit yesterday. Decent sell-offs kind of across the board out there. And then, send your hate mail to the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw, for absolutely just derailing everybody out there on the show today. These markets kind of getting a little bit derailed out there again today as well. 0.5% in the S&P today, listeners. It was off more. It was pushing 1% earlier in the session. Looks like maybe we have rebounded out there again today. The old bait and switch. You sell off, then you rally. Then you sell off, then you rally out there. One of those kind of days. So it looks like maybe we're in the second part of that. Maybe we're in the rally ho mode. Or maybe it's just the pause before the endless downturn that continues out there. Looks like we finally have everybody. Thank God. Uncle Mike Tosaw just wrecking the shop out here today. Always fun to host and troubleshoot at the same time. But I digress. A Dow off 0.2% right now. Again, off its lows from the session as well. And the NASDAQ off a little over 0.5%. Again, off its lows for the session as well. And of course, the story of the last couple of weeks really has been small caps and the Dow. This rotation out of the mega caps, out of the tech names, out of the NASDAQ and the S&P into small caps, into the Dow having, 700-point move in one session last week. The Russell 2000 having pretty much a year's worth of gains in about 10 days. It's crazy town. Well, they'll finally come in for the small caps out there as well. Off nearly 0.75%. So apparently they can go down. We were just talking on some of our early shows. The calls out there getting so crazy, they were actually bid. You don't see that in a major index very often, but that's what we had out here this week. All this a long way around to saying our markets are looking red to end the week here. VIX, when we were kicking off the show, coming into us a little bit north of 16, was at a 1610, has retreated from that now as the markets seem to have paused in their sell-off now at about a 15 3/4 right when we kicked off the show. That's still up almost 3 points, about 2 3/4 points from where it was on Monday. And VVIX at a 94, up a whopping 12 points. So getting juicy, getting frothy out there on the show. All right, I do believe we have everyone assembled now. Better late than never. So let's go around the horn the way we started. Let's go out to the hallowed halls of Cboe East by way of Woodstock, New York first. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what's catching your eye out there today?
Well, we're definitely seeing a pullback. Last week when we talked, I think I was joking that out of the last 30 trading days or so for the S&P at least, I think we're up about 22 of them. And, things had gotten, everybody was joking about, the market just trudges higher. And then we had that, the economic data, which all of a sudden made it seem like rate cuts were going to happen sooner rather than later. And you had this kind of violent dumping of tech and the S&P names, and people piling into these small caps, which tend to do better, with lower rates. Today it's just a little bit of a shakeup. I mean, we've this actually. I don't know if we're going to end up down or not. I mean, we are down about 0.5% in the SPX right now, after being down more than 1% yesterday. But VIX is pushing 16. Like things are waking up out there. Volume's nice and solid. We've been averaging well over 40 million for the last week. So just a lot of action.
A lot of action indeed. We turn our gaze now to the Southern volatility mecca once again. Mr. Meatball, a topsy-turvy week. We're green, we're red. Small caps and Dow seem like they're running away with it. All sorts of madness out there. VIX actually back, sniffing a 16 handle. A lot to sink your teeth into. What's catching your eye out there today, sir?
Yeah, we've seen the S&P really we saw a massive rotation, right? We saw the Dow Jones and the Russell 2000 completely take off while the major NASDAQ stocks kind of took it on the chin. Just an absolute bloodbath in names like NVIDIA, Apple, Google, while money is flown back into like your Johnson & Johnsons and your Pepsis and your Cokes and, names like Exxon and Chevron. And as I stated, the Russell 2000 completely busted out. And over the course of about 6 days, rallied 10%, which is bananas. To me, that's a cocktail for a top. When you've got money trying to find places where it can still go up, and yet unable to kind of find its spots. But the market continues to drop. It just kind of feels a little bit toppy to me, and I'm wondering if we're going to continue to see some selling, at least into some of these heavy tech earnings, and even with good earnings, are these tech names able to hold it? Taiwan Semiconductor reported this morning, it was up on the open and is now down after some pretty decent earnings, but. This season, they're going to have to be better than perfect for us to continue this uptrend because they priced in so much froth.
They have priced in a lot of froth. We've been saying that for a while. Our long-term average on our earnings season reports now is the highest I've ever seen it. We've been crunching that data for pretty much half a decade now, I would say, maybe longer. Certainly beyond the scope of the pandemic. Stuff got annihilated, obviously, in the pandemic. No one cared about earnings. Vol got down to 70, low 80%. Now it's up to 100, I think 13% on our most recent cycle. So yeah, that's just crazy town. That means we've had individual seasons that have been higher than that, obviously, to lift the overall bar out there. So yeah, it has been crazy town. I've been saying for a while, it takes a lot to support that. Can we keep buying vol forever, at least on the earnings vol front? So far, the answer this year has been yes. Can it continue? I don't know. Something certainly triggered the algos last week where all of a sudden, bam, all of them were like, we're out of the big stuff. Small caps and Dow is where the action is. So intriguing stuff afoot. Speaking of intriguing, I don't know if I would call this fellow intriguing. He's on my bad list today. First, he's on assignment for a show, and now he comes in. He's got to be fashionably late. He has all the crazy tech issues that completely derails the open of the show. Luckily for you podcast listeners, we have good editors, so you probably won't hear most of that. That's why you have to listen to the live listeners. You can hear the raw train wreck that was the open of the show. It's all laid fully at the feet of none other than the prima donna of prima donnas, Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, what do you have to say for yourself, sir?
I am broadcasting live from the technology capital of the world, St. Charles, Illinois. We're in a good spot here. We got Amazon, we got Google, we got all the big tech companies. They are here. Well, they're here online anyway. But nonetheless, it is the technology capital of the world, St. Charles, Illinois. Sunny, scenic, we got all, baby. It's that small town, I forget the name of it, that I think screwed this up. Was it Chicago? I've never heard of the place. But anyway, looking at these markets on today, it's interesting. So looking at our covered call portfolio, names that were out of the money are now in the money. We were excited going into this, but names that were in the money are now out of the money. So it's kind of just been within our covered call portfolio, just a giant shift. And we still have a shot at having, a realistic shot of getting called out of everything tomorrow. But a lot of these are really nail biters for us right now. And it's going to be interesting to see what tomorrow brings for purpose of our covered call portfolio. And so a lot of things are happening from the standpoint that some things are doing well. So if you look at like a JP Morgan, well, not today at JP Morgan. If you look at a JP Morgan, it's getting the tar beat out of it today. But we have other names that have been doing fairly well recently. So like a Chubb, for example, that's been doing pretty well. Tech names have gotten the tar beat out of them. Microsoft is down off of its highs. Microsoft's been just getting beaten down recently. So that's one that's going down. A couple other names just to look at out here that are kind of note at this point. Apple's actually back into the 220s, but let's just be realistic with ourselves. And let's just look at Apple, for example. Apple, it wasn't that long ago that I know I was looking at it thinking, well, I don't know if Apple's going to go above 180. And in looking at that, Apple went to 220 or 230, above 230. And so when you get ginormous, ridiculous moves like that, I say it all the time, giant moves begot giant pullbacks. And that's just what's happening right now. We're getting a little bit of a pullback. Now, in terms of the market in and of itself, we're down 0.5% on the day today. Nothing too crazy, nothing to be fearful of based upon the upward moves with which we have had. And so I think we really just need to kind of keep our perspective with things in that it wasn't until it was actually this week that I was saying my statement about I wasn't saying it on the show because it happened on Tuesday, but I was saying my thing about the history of the entire stock market, and we were at all-time highs 2 days ago. Just looking at SPY, we were at 565. We're now down to 553. And so a 2% pullback after you've had the insane rallies with which we have, it's really not a big deal, to me anyway. And so what I think is important of what we really need to keep our perspective on is what's going to drive this market down? What is going to be the event that triggers markets pulling back? Technically speaking, it's difficult to do with all-time highs, but are the tech earnings going to pull us back? Is politics going to pull us back? We got Joe Biden with COVID now. So, with a lot of things that we have going on right now, there's going to need to be some type of catalyst that actually gives us a pullback, because I am not convinced that the bulls are sleeping as of yet. Maybe just taking a little nap.
We shall see. Something triggered the algos to hit the sell button last week, at least in certain indexes, and perhaps buy in others. So all sorts of intriguing stuff afoot. Are the full markets looking intriguing today? Well, it kind of depends really where you're looking out there. And certain indexes are really popping off right now. Others kind of doing what you'd expect. Let's start in the VIX camp. This one I would put in the latter category, kind of doing what we'd expect, maybe a little bit frothier. 500,000 contracts is certainly nothing to sneeze at these days. But the ADV is also up quite a bit, up about 70,000 contracts since our last show on Monday. That's up to about 807 again. So again, mid-July, talking 800,000 ADV in the VIX. Things are probably a little frothy if that's the kind of numbers that VIX is putting up in the depth, the heart of summer out there, listeners. What's lighting it up out there in VIX land today? Did you say 52,000 of the AUG 12 puts? Well, if you did, then you're winner chicken dinner. Followed by number 2, we got about 30,000 of the AUG 14 puts out there. So looks like maybe we got a bit of a, is that the same? Yeah, it was a spread. And we got 12 half puts, 10,000 as well. So maybe a funky 1x4? I don't know. I'll have to look at all the full numbers out here, but they went up 1x4. I think more have gone up since on the 14 puts, about 30,000 total. But yeah, funky ratio downside put spread. Again, I've said before, I don't hate that. I'm surprised we don't see it more in VIX out there. At a certain level, of course, you're selling those 12 puts for 6 cents, so that depends how much that excites you. But that said, just level-wise, you could probably make an argument that you're fairly safe on the 12 handle there in VIX. I mean, obviously, we can go lower, but there's enough on the horizon to probably keep us above that 12 handle, or at least get us back above it. SPY, though, just saying, hold my bear, kid. 6.25 million contracts. That's fully 2 million more contracts than we expect this time of day. I would pull up SPY and see what's lighting it up, but you know what it is, listeners. It is all 0-day madness. And, that is the case again. The big dog today, look at these numbers. 322,000 of the July 560s. Again, we're at a 554 in SPY right now, opening, of course, because that's today. And then 264,000 for number 2 of the July 559s. Again, all 0 days, all expiring today. And that's not enough for you. How about 216,000 of the 558s? Again, expiring today. So we're at pretty much 800 plus thousand contracts just in those top 3. So you could see how some of this size starts to add up. Also surprising still that we saw ETF and index options so light last month, given these numbers we're seeing now. Looks like July is probably going to turn the tables, but we shall see. The S also saying, hold my bear, kid. 2.25 million contracts on the tape right now. So S&P 500, kind of where the action is right now, at least from a volume perspective, until we get to the NASDAQ. Spoiler. 2.25 million contracts on the tape right now in the S. Again, that's fully 500,000 contracts above where we expect it to be. The ADV 3.06, so seem like we're certainly on pace to hit that. Small caps, once again, just kind of the tiger that has been unleashed upon the market out there. We've been saying for a while, it's kind of marching to the beat of its own drum, or kind of doing its own thing. That is even insufficient now. Small caps are just, again, an untamed, unchecked beast. You ride that beast at your peril. Fun stuff, though, if you're into a little bit of action out there. 1.65 million contracts on the tape right now. The ADV is 1.6 million, so we are already at it out there in small caps. The big dog in small caps, about 53,000 of the August. This is one of the reasons why I like small caps. A, it can move. B, it's more volatile. C, it's not all 0 day all the time. AUG 211 puts, 52,000 of those bad boys for number 1. Opening, followed by number 2, 50,000 of the SEP 212 puts. I'm sure when we fire it up, maybe later on TWIFO, look at some of the RUT options out there. It's going to be the same deal. It's going to be a lot of paper a month or so out. It's not just this 0 day madness that has just beset SPY and SPX and most of the other indexes. So kind of interesting there. I mean, you're kind of limited in how much analysis you can do in 322,000 of the 560s going away today in SPY. But you can sink your teeth a little more into the AUG 211 puts in IWM. Either way, 1.65 million contracts on the tape. The Qs also saying, hold my beer, kid, today. 3.5 million contracts, closing in on 3.6 million right now, actually. That is pretty much the ADV, 3.6 million. So the Qs also on fire. And since I did it for everyone else, let's do it for the Qs as well. Again, the 0 day madness continues. 478 puts. We're at 479.82 right now in the Qs. 100,000 of the 478 puts expiring today, going up, followed by 91,000 of the 480 puts also expiring today, and 89,000 of the 485 calls, again, expiring today. In fact, I'm looking here on the top 20. I only see one contract here. 55,000 of the 485 calls, and those are expiring tomorrow. It's the only thing in the top 20 that's not even expiring today. So Qs, once again, all 0 day, all the time. But small caps, again, kind of doing their own thing, which makes them fascinating. I'd love to see a return of some sort of vol product on that index. That's a conversation for another day. Let's keep rolling out now to the single name land. Are they following along? Are they playing along with this game? The answer is kind of. They're doing pretty respectable numbers today. 277,000 contracts. That's what it cost you to break into the top 10 today. So not 350, 360, 400, but again, not 150 either, so very respectable. That gets us to our old friend GameStop, 26.5 off $1.50 today, or 5 1/3%. Number 9, the artist formerly known as Facebook. Man, they're loving this one today. 473.60, up 11.60 or 2.5%. So pretty much getting back what it gave up yesterday. 353,000 contracts on the tape for them, and coming in at number 9. Number 8, my old stomping grounds, Intel 3560 up $1.12 or 3.25%. Good for number 8, 404,000 contracts. Number 7, Meatball was talking about this one, Taiwan Semi 170.5. Quite the range on this bad boy. Again, their number is not terrible, but the market not liking them today. Their low was 164.5 today. The high 178.69. So $14.18 range today on a $169 stock. Almost 170 now, penny away. So man, they are moving today and delivering on the volume front, 542,000. So again, a dense day. We're at number 7. We're already north of 500,000 contracts. So that is certainly respectable, listeners. Number 6, Palantir. Man, they're on the rampage of late. 29.20, up nearly $1 again today. So just this past week, they're up nearly 7% or $1.86. I guess that'll happen when they appoint a VP who, let's say, is in the orbit of one of the major founders of Palantir. Probably going to look favorably on their stock, and that's kind of what we're seeing out there. Number 6, Palantir, 572,000 contracts. Number 5, Amazon, 184 even, off nearly $4 or about 2%. Good for 728,000. Amazon, of course, coming off their big Prime Day. What did you buy on the other national holiday known as Prime Day, listeners? Number 4, keeping the A-Tech streak alive. It's AMD, 785. They're coming for a little bit today. 360 to the downside, trading 155.83. That's about 2.25%. On the week, this name is off 14% or 26 handles. My goodness. So taking a little bit off the top this week, I think, to put it mildly. The 52-week high is 227.30. Obviously, at about 156, we're well below that. Even last week, was at 186, so we're about 30 points below that now as well. So, been a rough week for AMD out there. And then number 3 is the Fruit Company, finally shedding some of their gains as well. 224.81, off about $4 or nearly 2%. On the week, they're off about the same amount, $4. So, pretty much hanging out at the same level. You know what the deal is on the month, though. They've been on the rampage. Number 3, 1.07 million contracts for Apple. Number 2, it's Tesla. I guess it's on again. It's off again. Today it's on again for Tesla. 767 to the upside. 256.17. Easy for me to say out there in Tesla land. Tesla 256.21, up 771 or a little over 3% today. On the week, though, they're up 20 handles or nearly 9%. So apparently all is right with the world. You know, when the EVs aren't selling, you just start whispering those 2 magic letters, AI, and bam, all is right with the world. And you come in at number 2 on the most actives, but not enough to topple the king. If you come for the king, you best not miss, listeners. NVIDIA, 3.63 million contracts on the tape today. Good for the number 1 spot. 121.15, up a little over $3 today, or a little over 2, almost 2.5% for NVIDIA. And on the week, though, they are still down about 7 1/3 handles, or about 5.75%. So certainly interesting, especially this level, given we were at 124 when we did that poll a few weeks ago, and most of you were buying the 124 call expiring at the end of the year. Right now, at least, not a great do, but again, you got a lot of time left on that. We got a lot of time left in the show, so let's get to some fun. Actually, before we get there really quickly, a lot of earnings juice popping off right now. A hot week. Goldman and BlackRock on Monday, Bank of America and PNC on Tuesday. Hope you like your financials. You're getting a ton of them right now, listeners. You had U.S. Bancorp and Northern Trust yesterday, as well as Discover and J&J and Alcoa. They have rolled aluminum fame for all the Brits out there. Today, of course, we have Nokia, as the Finns say, and then Domino's, a pizza, and Abbott Labs, and something called Netflix I'm not familiar with. Let's get out there right now. Domino's Pizza are popping off before the bell. Luckily for you, we got hot off the presses earnings move results reports for you folks, listeners. Domino's Pizza before the bell, 473.25 is where they were trading. They were pricing in 5.2%. They delivered, get this, listeners, looks like a rough day in pizza land. They delivered 10.1% to the downside, listeners. So pretty much doubling their straddle out there right now. My goodness, they're off 63 handles right now, or 13.3%. So apparently Domino's Pizza is not selling pizzas anymore. My goodness. They are crushing this. We always joke about how much pizza ball there is. Apparently, it's a lot more than what's being priced in. We were saying these are the seasons to buy vol, at least in these names. And at least Domino's bearing that out. Let's see if some of our others are bearing that out. Remember, we're at some lofty levels, so it takes a lot of juice to maintain these levels. Let's go to Alcoa. They were yesterday after the bell. They were pricing in 5.1%. You know what? They're bucking the trend. They only delivered 2.1%. They were at 36.81 going into their announcement. They were at 37 double when we ran this report. Right now, we re-rack it. They're at 36, pretty much even. So not a heck of a lot out there in rolled aluminum. Let's go out to United Airlines. Yesterday after the bell, they were at about $47 going into their announcement. They're pricing in 7.2%. Another one under delivering 2.3% as of this report. They were trading at $48. They're down to about 47.5 right now, so up about 1%. So these two are bucking the trend. Maybe you had to sell a little bit of juice. Speaking of juice, let's see how much juice. Netflix, always infamous for how much juice they can price in and also deliver. They're at 647.5 when we ran this report earlier this morning. They were pricing in $53.94. Now, that may sound like a lot, and it is. But when you look at previous history, for Netflix, they've delivered almost $75 worth of juice in the past. So that is a significant haircut. $20 off the top. That seems like a dangerous road to take vol off of Netflix, given what we've seen in the past. But that's what they're doing out there right now. Netflix kind of unched right now on the day. I guess they're saving it all up for the earnings tonight. But you agree with that, listeners? Taking $20 off the top in that straddle? I don't know. It could be a dangerous road to go. Or maybe Netflix just got too ridiculous, too out of control from a vol perspective, and it just cannot be bought anymore. Either way, listeners, a ton of other names there for you. You like Zion Bancorp. You got Agency. We talked about them many times. They're all there in our reports. And many more. GE coming up next week. GM, all those names. Head on over to theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab. Google, Tesla, also in there coming up pretty soon next week. So a lot to sink your teeth into if you want to see what they're pricing in, what they've done in the past to help you prepare for your trading next week. That's the place to go. Meanwhile, we got to go right on into the odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild, and sometimes we get a little conspiratorial, or perhaps anti-conspiratorial. Again, we don't normally sink our teeth into this stuff, and I'm going to throw it to the Flowmaster for his fun flow in a second. But, you know, you might have seen this stuff making the rounds. A lot of people hit us up with this saying, hey, did you see this? People out there with decent followings on the social medias are putting out that there was a size short position initiated in DJT right ahead of the obviously tragic events that occurred just last week. One person losing their lives, two others very badly injured. And so you start to see this stuff floating around out there in the ether after these things happened. The one a lot of people sent us to, I won't name the person who was talking about it, but they talked about a company called Austin Private Wealth shorting 12 million shares of DJT via a put option. Then they say something that's caught my eye. They say the filing date is July 12th, the day before the attempted assassination of Trump. So now, of course, everyone's hackles are up. The hairs on the back of their necks standing up. They're saying, wait a minute, what was going on? Did somebody know? Is this a bin Laden put thing all over again before 9/11? So this stuff starts to reverberate in the echo chamber, and it starts to get a little dangerous. So I thought maybe it might be a good time to shine a little light on this stuff. I went looking for this print this person supposedly highlighted. I could not find it. And then again, I went back to that key notice of the filing date. That kind of caught my eye. And that's where the Flowmaster comes in. Mr. Flowmaster, you've been doing a little bit more digging into this. You have access to a lot of that critically important 13F data as well. So break it down for us. What is this person talking about, and what are your thoughts?
I've paid attention to 13F data for decades, really. And, you know, at Trade Alert and now at Cboe, we focus, you know, a lot on the options part of the 13F because that is our primary focus here. And there's a couple of things people need to understand. The 13F filings, which are SEC mandated by asset managers, they have some limitations. One is that they only come out quarterly. So, and there's a 45-day, up to a 45-day lag. So the end of the quarter was June 30th, so now we're into July, and a couple of filings have trickled in, but most of them don't come in for another month. Somebody was pointing to a large put position in DJT on one of these new filings, and I was able to find the filing they were talking about, but there's issues with the filings in that the way that sometimes the way the positions are reported, they use notional size and sometimes they use contract size. And so you have to do a little bit of cleaning of that data to make sure that you don't grab something that says, 1 million contracts when really it needs to be divided by 100, right? Because there's a 100 multiplier on the options. And every once in a while we see just erroneous data. So what you can basically do is kind of combine these disclosures, which are the rules say that they're all as of the end of the quarter. So when the filings come out, they're talking about what their positions were on the last trading day of June, and then you have to look at the open interest, right? So the DJT open interest on at the end of June was not that big. I think what we're looking at around. Total, there were about 500,000 contracts, and half of those were calls and half of those were puts. So there was no position of 12 million puts. It did not exist in the listed markets, and the 13Fs do not report anything that's not listed. So in fact, looking at the biggest positions out there, there isn't anything very large. There's some $2.50 strike positions, which I'm going to kind of ignore because it was a $36 stock then. I think it's probably still around a $39 stock today. The largest position that even kind of has any mass to it at all was some June 28th 30 puts. So those were expiring that Friday. There just isn't anything there. So it looks like bad data. And the another thing that's very important, and actually this did play into the whole meme stock craze around GameStop, right? One of the ways that that Roaring Kitty and the Reddit crowd knew that Melvin Capital was short was that they reported long puts. But there's a quirk in the 13Fs, which is that short positions aren't reported at all, including short option positions and short stock positions. So even when you're looking at a 13F and you feel like you see something, you have to keep in mind you might be missing the other half of the picture. And I mean, we all know if you're long 10,000 put spreads, you're going to report the long, but you're not going to report the short. So, and that goes the other way around too. You could be short 10,000 put spreads and you're really only reporting the long. So you have to be careful what you read into it. We tend to look at the filers, look at them over time, say, okay, what has this filer reported on a, quarter over quarter basis? And then you see, okay, yeah, they are consistently long 20, 30, 40,000 puts in, stock A or stock B. And then you can kind of make some judgments. But in this case, it does look like a piece of bad information. Watching DJT trade and, be kind of short squeezed and, kind of become a proxy for the Donald has really been interesting. But this 12 million put position is fake news.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there to really debunk it. And even if there was something out there, for all the reasons Henry said, it's not reliable. 13Fs are a extremely lagging indicator. So even if the report was filed on July 12th, doesn't mean the position was open then. So there's a lot of misinformation flowing around. I love the fact that unusual options activity is getting a lot more mainstream attention. The problem is a lot of people are talking about it who really don't understand how this stuff works, and it could really become dangerous, especially when you get around names like this at times heading into the election. So we thought it would be a good time to just pump the brakes on some of the conspiracy madness. So feel free to share this out into the dark reaches and dark corners of the internet where conspiracies fester. So we can kind of just put this to bed now. And let's move on to more fun things, shall we? Let's move on to, this is another politically driven name. This is Palantir. So out of the frying pan into the fire. I was joking earlier, obviously the new VP, but very much in, let's say, the Peter Thiel orbit, who's also a big hand over there at Palantir. And Palantir rallying hard. Up again, 84 cents now, about 3% today on the week, nearly 7% actually on the week. It's up to you to decide whether those two things are related or not. But either way, a good run for them. You know what it's like on the year, too. We talked about a million times. They've had a good year, up 61%. Going back to, let's see, as recently as September of last year, they were $14. So they have pretty much almost exactly doubled from that low. So been a good run for them. Mr. Flowmaster, what'd you find, sir?
Well, so this is one that you have to be a little careful on. So the trade that I pulled up is a pretty sizable call purchase. It's a buyer of 5,500 of the SEP 25 calls, paying $5.80 this morning, and as you said, the stock's around 29. So it's a $3 million premium trade. But what's interesting is if you go and you look at the contract history for that specific option, you actually can see it looks like about that size was sold to open last month. So in this case, and then as you said, stocks had a heck of a run, and I think that you have a lot of politics seeping into the market these days, just because it's that kind of a cycle for sure. But in this case, this looks like a closing call buyer who lost some money. Maybe they were long the stock and they wrote a chunk of calls against it, and then they realized that they don't want to lose the stock right now that they're in the money. So there are Septembers. I think they probably thought they had some time. But in this case, I'm looking at the opening sales look like they are around $3 to $4, just a couple weeks ago. Maybe some as far back as February. But this is a call buyer, and it is a directionally bullish trade. But I actually think this is I'm pretty sure this is a closing buyer.
Closing covered call. That's no fun, sir. We want people swinging for the fences. Yeah, that would be way more fun, Mr. Meatball, sir. Anything catching your eye out here in Palantir or anything else out there in the markets today, sir?
Palantir is bucking the trend of the overall market. It continues to be strong. Lots of just a ton of flow expiring tomorrow in Palantir, Mark. They love this short dated stuff. 20,000 of the 28.5s, 38,000 of the 29s, 23,000 of the 29.5s. And they've YOLO'd 57,000 of the July 30 calls right now, Mark. They're going for it.
They're going big.
And into next week, you've got 21,000 of the 29s and 28,000 of the 30s. So they're not being very shy. August 2nd, 11,000 of the 30 calls. And just for giggles, let's go to the old standard bearer, good old August 16th. You've got about 7,800 of the 30 calls going up for about $2. So Palantir keeping itself busy. Did we talk about this NVIDIA put spread trader from Tuesday?
Let's get to it, sir. Go ahead. Explain it to our listeners.
This guy, I'm so mad at myself for not jumping on board. So the trader bought the one night with NVIDIA trading like 127. Trader bought the 119, 115 put spread, paid 20 cents. They did this on Tuesday. Sold it on Wednesday at $1.35. Nice overnight trade in NVIDIA. How did the guy know it was going to drop $10? I don't know, but he knew. If you see, and he bought 60,000 of them, Mark. So let's see. What was that? What is that P&L? Let's go. 60,000 times. Yep, let me clear first. 60,000 times $1.15 times 100. 6.9 million overnight. That's not a bad way to make a living.
Not
Mark.
a bad use of capital for 24 hours. Yes.
No, it is not. I will do that. I will make $7 million overnight if you give me the opportunity.
Yeah, gun to my head, I guess if you make me take that limited amount of capital, I guess I would do so as well. Yeah, that one kind of slipped through a lot of people's radar, but not this guy or gal. They had the good timing. Henry, did you notice this one? Any thoughts on that put spread, sir?
I only noticed it when Mark mentioned it to me. I was running around on Tuesday, so that is a heck of a well-timed trade. I mean, these moves that we've been having really are, there's in hindsight, it's kind of easy to go, wow, you know what? When we go up, 14, 15 days in a row, and everybody's becoming incredibly complacent, and you have some of these, even what you mentioned in Russell, having a year's worth of move in a week, people that have the resources, that they're not, in positions that are causing them trouble, can take some shots. And this just looks like that. Somebody was like, you know what, I think we're overheated here. And it's great to see how it worked.
And now, Mark, one other piece of news. Your buddy Ken Griffin. I know you love him.
Close personal friends, me and him. Yes, we go way back.
Yes. Do you see he bought a $44 million Stegosaurus today?
I did not know. Putting his funds to good use, I see.
Apex, the Stegosaurus, purchased for $44.6 million by our good friend Ken Griffin. Citadel, adding value to the world.
You know, you're sitting on maybe a little bit too much money when that's what you're putting your capital towards. Dinosaur bones, intriguing stuff. Maybe if it was the T-Rex, maybe I could see the argument. Stegosaurus, I don't know, a little bit farther down.
Hey, don't sleep on Stegosaurus. He's got that spiked tail that'll jack you up.
I could see maybe a Triceratops. You can get me in for that. Kind of cool. Stegosaurus.
Here's an interesting thing, though, Mark. Did you know that you are alive closer to a T-Rex than the Stegosaurus was? So Stegosaurus is actually went extinct about 150 million years ago, and the T-Rex didn't really show up till 70 million years ago, and then it ended with the K whatever extinction event. So you're alive actually closer in date to a T-Rex than the Stegosaurus was. How about that?
There you go. The paleontology block. With one Greasy. Someone's got, I think, a son who might be into dinosaurs over there, I'm guessing.
A son? How about a father?
All right, yeah, Dad, they're pretty cool. I will just say I did just ride that Jurassic World ride out in Universal Studios. That's a pretty fun update. The Jurassic Park ride getting a little long in the tooth, pun intended, but that Jurassic World update they made to it, again, the movie's not the best.
Were you in California or Florida?
California. That's the only one that has.
Oh, I just went on that. Wasn't that ride awesome?
That was awesome.
I went on that in March. That ride was great.
That was really fun where they're smashing the screen at the beginning. The Mosasaurus trying to get you.
Mark, my older son, also named Mark, he and I single rode it. Then we went through it and liked it so much we got back in the single rider line.
That's pretty much what we did too. That's a great ride. That was fun. So there you go, listeners. There's your paleontology block here on the Thursday episode of the Option Block. Would you spend $44 million on a Stegosaurus, or would you maybe go a little bit farther up the food chain? You're going to go T-Rex. I don't think you can get a T-Rex for $44 million, given what they got for Sue4 over here, I believe. And then, of course, maybe Triceratops, maybe something else. Maybe you're going to go a little deep. Carnotaurus, Allosaurus. I'll leave it up to you up there, what you would spend your $44 million on as we keep on rolling and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's go around the block. Let's find out if that malfunctioning prima donna out there, if he's got all of his stuff sorted out. Let's start with him. I know it's a dangerous thing. I think it's even more dangerous because I do believe he's going to be joining me on Twyfo in a little bit. So that makes me very scared for the future of Twyfo listeners. But let's go out to the land of Uncle Mike. Mr. Uncle Mike, where do you fall on the Stegosaurus, Triceratops, T-Rex debate? Where would you spend your money? What dinosaur bones float your fancy? And then B, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week?
Well, with regard to dinosaur bones, I spent many college hours studying and, quite frankly, debunking a lot of paleontology theories. So I'll just stay out of this one for the sake of the show. But anyway, with that, in terms of around the block, I'm watching to see if we're about 2% off the all-time high right now, seeing if we can make new all-time highs. Expiration Friday tomorrow, so I do still believe that traditional expiration Friday is a thing, even though it's really not a thing anymore. It is a thing, and I think we might get some surprises tomorrow. So those are the things with which I'm watching.
The great paleontology debunker, known as Uncle Mike. Who knew? The hidden depths of paleontology we're discovering here on the show. I think producer might be a fun flash poll we can put out there. Let's see if we can get it up for the end of the show. Might be kind of fun, get some answers. What is your favorite dino? Maybe we'll go T-Rex. We'll go Stegosaurus because it's in the news now. Triceratops, you got to throw them in there. I always like that one. 2 horns, kind of kicking some butt out there. And then, of course, we'll throw in the other because there's a million other choices. We'll see what you folks choose. We'll see if we can get it live before the end of the show. As we go around the horn, Mr. Flowmaster, what is your favorite dino? And then B, what are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance next week?
Well, I was going to say, we did have this like big meteor over the Statue of Liberty yesterday at 11 in the morning, which made a noise like thunder. I heard something rattle. I assumed it was like somebody pushing a cart down the hallway because I was in the office, and we are right in front of the Statue of Liberty. But so maybe that could have been a extinction event type of thing. This has been very interesting, though. I'm going to be watching as we go through some more earnings and. Really trying to pay attention. It's funny, I was able to load I can copy this over to your account if you want, a Russell 2000 component basket and an S&P 500 basket and a Dow Jones Industrials basket and a NASDAQ basket into the system. So basically, because it feels like right now there's a lot of focus on that. And people really trying to kind of segment the market that way. So it'll be important. It's easy enough to see what's going on in the Russell Index options and IWM, but I actually want to keep an eye on the component names and kind of see if we're starting to see a pickup in all of that. So. And really just trying to use the Cboe, the pretty cool Cboe indexes we have, the VIX 1D and this dispersion index, both are very relevant right now. As we kind of see some days where things get really, really interesting, and dispersion is when you have Russell up and S&P down, that's kind of dispersion to the extreme. So just a lot of things. I think it's important for traders at this point to kind of be very open to evolving, their approach, because obviously, things might be, kind of abnormal for what could be a month or two or three.
I see what you did there, evolving, keeping on our paleontology theme here for the episode. I didn't realize you had a near extinction event yesterday, so I'm glad you could join us.
Yeah.
That could certainly leave you a little rattled out there. And last but not least, the man who took us down this dark paleontology rabbit hole. What are you keeping an eye on till the Monday show, sir?
Well, now I'm gonna Monday we're gonna be live in Chicago doing the show with Tosaw.
Oh, you're right. That is Monday.
Andrew.
Yes. We'll be live.
Maybe we were gonna do it at the Cboe headquarters. Maybe we should do it at the Field Museum in the dinosaur section.
I would totally be down for a live show right at the base of Sioux. Can we make that happen in like a couple of days'
right
notice?
Underneath Maximo, the Titanosaur.
Wow.
Either of those, they have a great Triceratops. They themselves have a pretty nice Stegosaurus skeleton. So we could literally see all of your choices, Mark.
All right, now you're exciting me. Let's see if we can make that happen in 72 hours? How long do we have to make this happen? I'm sure it's a reasonable event space, the Field Museum right below Sioux, their marquee attraction. I'm sure it's not expensive at all to reserve that space. Let alone for a financial show.
People do weddings there.
I
do know that.
They do. I don't know if anyone's hosted a show
there. They're not
before.
cheap though.
Might be a first. I don't know. You think Cboe be down for that, Henry? A little Field Museum last minute action. What do you think?
I'm gonna say no comment.
All right. Instead, listeners, let's fire it up and get out of here for this week. All right, listen, that music means we've come to the end of the paleontology block for this week. Let's see really quickly if our producers were able to get this stuff fired off out here. Yes, they did. And right now, as I expected, it just went live like a minute ago. 100% of you folks are choosing the T-Rex. No love for Stegosaurus or Triceratops. I'll see if I can come back in a few minutes and update that for you. Meanwhile, get over there at Options. You should be following us there anyway. And you can play along in all of that madness. Mr. Uncle Mike, speaking of madness, where should folks go if they want more madness? And then a little birdie tells me that if you can get your stuff sorted out, I might be talking to you again soon.
Very excited. I'm endorsing the T-Rex, by the way, for the poll, because I do believe in that. But if you'd like to learn a little bit more about what I'm doing, follow me on Twitter at Mike Tosaw. Tosaw. If you're looking for a financial advisor who is not afraid of the option product, go to my website, book an appointment with me, stcharleswealth.com. Excited to see and hear from everybody. Excited to be at the Greasy Meatballs event on Monday at the Cboe or the Field Museum if it gets a change of venue. And I get to be a co-host in about another half hour on This Week in Futures Options.
We'll see. If he can get his stuff sorted out, listeners, you might hear a little more Uncle Mike on the network later today. In the meantime, if you want to hear more from him in between episodes of this show, stcharleswealth.com, the place to go. Stego making a comeback now. 33% of you like a little bit. You must be listening live to the show or something. 33, or maybe it's a Meatball vote, I don't know. But 33% of you right now liking Stegosaurus. Mr. Meatball, where should folks go? Is it too late to sign up for the Big Monday Shindig?
You can stream it. We have a link to that. Just go to emailmyteamsupport@optionpit.com, and you can stream it. And keep an eye on the Russell 2000 because that is starting to melt. And we had a nice little midday rally. It's starting to fall apart. Don't be surprised if we've got some real funness. We get a little more follow through tomorrow. Monday, when we're doing the show, could be really, really, really fun.
I love some funness. You know what would make it even more fun? At the base of the T-Rex in the field museum. I'm excited about that now.
Or the Titanosaur. Have you seen the Titanosaur? It's huge.
I haven't been to the field museum in a few years. I have not seen the Titanosaur.
You gotta take the boy.
Oh, is that the one? Is that the old one that's been there forever? Is that the Titanosaur? I've seen that.
Yeah, no, they moved. They moved Sue into her own exhibit, and now in the main hall is this giant. It's got to be 50 feet tall, this Titanosaur named Maximo.
Maybe I do need to go back to the Field Museum. All right, we'll check it out. Who knows?
It's new and exciting.
Stay tuned on Monday, listeners. Maybe we'll be coming to you live from the Field Museum. That would be awesome. And Mr. Flowmaster, I don't know if you're going to be joining us on Monday. Probably not, it sounds like. So no Field Museum for you. But in the meantime, if folks want some Flowmaster goodness, they want to use it to debunk some stuff like we were talking about on the show today, where should they go? What should they do?
Just head over to Cboe.com/RMA, which is Risk and Market Analytics. You can request a trial. You can take a look at the flex trades that we have, all sorts of good stuff.
There you go, Cboe.com/RMA. And email Henry or tweet at him if you think they should be captaining the ship on our Field Museum outing for Monday. Right now, listeners, T-Rex still in the lead, but his lead is dwindling. His mighty bite is loosening. Only 40% now for the T-Rex, 20% for the Stegosaurus, 20% for Triceratops, 20% for other. So again, it just went live. You got a couple hours left. Actually, maybe only 1 hour left. Our producers were aggressive with this one. So you only got an hour. That's why you got to be listening live, or you got to be following us at Options on the old social medias to make your voice heard. We'll reveal the results a little bit later today on Twifo with none other than Uncle Mike Tosaw. Back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for Volatility Views. Who's going to join us? I guess you got to tune in to find out. And then back again one more time exclusively for you folks on the pro side with a little bit of options oddities. And then we're back again on Monday, maybe in the Field Museum, for a live edition of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.